Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have for you the metagame in 8 minutes. I will be going through 3 of the most recent online tournaments, discussing the metagame just a little bit, and then giving my suggestion of what to play at the end of the video. So this is it, the metagame in 8 minutes. So there are 3 tournaments that I'd like to highlight in terms of what they showed in the meta this week. The first one is the Atlas Darkness Ablaze mini tournament that saw Alex Szymanski win with Centiskorch. Now, Centiskorch has been a deck that I just have not liked since its inception, and it is finally starting to pick up a little bit of steam in terms of actually getting the placements that it maybe didn't have in the past. Alex was able to beat Pablo, an Eternatus deck, in the top 8, just kind of showing that, you know, there is a way to do it. I've always thought that matchup to be heavily favored for Eternatus, but we see Alex being able to get there in this tournament. The other notable thing about this tournament, this is just the top 16. We see one thing that will remain pretty consistent across the 3 tournaments that results that we'll be looking at, and that is Eternatus is pretty much everywhere. That deck just doesn't really have terrible matchups, and you can tech it to beat a lot of things like fairly easily. You can go a big attacking route with that. You can add in tech attackers to deal with your tough Pokemon like Zamazenta and Decidueye and things like that. So Eternatus just doesn't die. It is a very good deck, very consistent deck, can outspeed a lot of things, and from my results has a really good ADP matchup, has a really good Mewtwo matchup, has a really good Centiskorch matchup, and a few other things. The other notable thing about the Atlas mini was that we saw a lot of Mewtwo Welder. You're seeing it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top 16. That is absolutely ridiculous. Mewtwo Welder is a deck that I do like for these upcoming tournaments because of the toolbox style of the deck. You can play different techs depending on what you expect to see in the metagame, and it's a really just a good meta call. If you have your finger on the pulse of the metagame, you will find good results with Mewtwo. It has proven itself over and over and over again, and absolutely dominating some of these tournaments. Now, it didn't get first. It only has that 1 top 4 placement, but it did pretty consistently well, and it's not a deck that a lot of players choose, so to see 5 in the top 16 is very, very impressive. Now, moving on to the Hexter top deck number 8. This tournament was held on, September 7th? So about a week ago. We have the winner being an ADP deck. Now, ADP, much maligned, but still has, pretty solid matchups across the board, so no surprise to see it winning there. The other consistent, Eternatus. Look at it. Look at all the little black dots scattering around the screen there. Eternatus is a deck to be reckoned with. Absolutely my number 1 choice for players if they, are kind of trying to make up their minds on what to play. The other interesting thing about this tournament was the inclusion of Blacephalon in such high numbers. So we see 6 here in the top 32. Very, very strong showing from Blacephalon. Obviously having that good Eternatus matchup, having a pretty reasonable ADP matchup depending on certain techs and how fast you can get going. And then just having a generally good matchup into all tag team decks like Mewtwo and Mew, like Pikarom, just because you're a 1-prizer that can one-shot. So Blacephalon, another strong deck depending on your metagame. We see here also, very interesting to note, Pikarom doing pretty well. It also is, it's the winner of the Pokex tournament here that I'll get to in just a second, but placing 5th was Sackett with his Hammers Pikarom list. Very, very cool. We also see, this is the first tournament that we see the Mad Party show up. Okay, so Mad Party really, had a few results, but I think on this stage really showed just how strong it was. We see Matt Wood, aka Little Dark Fury, coming into top 8 with a unique list that actually included Dugong. Now, Dugong is really good for things like Eternatus, so you can snipe 2 Zigzagoons, you know, after you do some Roxy pings, you get a couple of knockouts there, and you can really shore up the prize trade in those matchups. So kind of adding a new twist to the Mad Party list. We also saw Azul win just recently a tournament that banned ADP. He won it with the Mad Party. So it actually kind of calls into question whether or not Mad Party actually is viable in this format. Because we look at the results for many of these tournaments, and ADP definitely has a presence, but it's not the presence that is like an overwhelming presence. It's maybe like 10% or less of the metagame. So Mad Party actually to me seems like a good deck to choose if, you know, you're not expecting to see a lot of ADP, or if you feel like, you know what, I can handle the ADP matchup, like I can take a loss or two to that and then just kind of breeze through everything else. So Mad Party, a deck to keep an eye out for. The other kind of interesting, consistent deck that we keep seeing pop up, maybe not in huge numbers, but like pretty much in every tournament you see it make, you know, top 16, top 8, is the Lucario Melmetal deck. Now, having 3 here in the top 32 is pretty good because, again, it's the kind of deck that not a lot of players will gravitate towards. It's more of a defensive style deck, and so just seeing it perform well, getting a second place finish, shows that it does have the strength. Obviously, good matchups there would be Eternatus primarily, and then being able to wiggle your way around matchups like ADP and you know, even something like Inteleon. So that is the Hexter. Moving on to the Pokex. This is, I don't know what the heck is going on in this tournament. I can't even give a good assessment of what this is, but we see Pikarom winning, and then an absolute firestorm of Centiskorch. So 5 Centiskorch in the top 8 is absolutely absurd to me. I don't understand how that happens. And then, again, the consistent Eternatus. If you don't know what to play, I will reiterate myself. If you do not know what to play, Eternatus is your best bet. So going on here, some ADPs, some, you know, there was a bird trio that got 25th, another interesting deck if you like something a little bit more rogue, and the consistent, you know, Mewtwo's and ADPs and Lucario Melmetals here for the Pokex tournament. If you're going into a tournament this week and you just don't know what to play, I think there are 3 recommendations that I can give. Again, the consistent one is going to be Eternatus. I think that deck just has the power. You can tech it out the way that you want, whether you want to go a more attacking route and really beat up on the mirrors and, you know, other big VMAX Pokemon, or you want to go a little bit more of the defensive route with dangerous drills and reset stamps. I think you can't really make a bad choice, and it's really just up to personal preference. There's a lot of wiggle room in those Eternatus lists to kind of make it your own and adjust it to the metagame as you see fit. Mewtwo seems like a great deck as well if you know what you're doing. I would not take Mewtwo to a tournament if you have never played it before and if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, because there are a lot of decisions with Mewtwo that you have to make over the course of the game that one small misstep can really cost you the round and potentially the tournament. The other deck that I really like heading into the week of tournaments is Blacephalon. I think it's a deck that's really proven itself. We've seen it show consistent placings across many different tournaments over the last few weeks, and it has that staying power to be able to one-shot the VMAXs and the tag teams that make up much of the format. I mean, you see things like Mewtwo, you see things like Eternatus, Centiskorch, and even things like, you know, Inteleon or Bird Trio or Zacian, Lucario Melmetal. Like, those are just big, beefy guys that really fall to a Blacephalon doing the high numbers that it knows how to do. So if you're looking for another deck that would be a great choice for this week, could not recommend Blacephalon enough. So that was the meta in 8 minutes. Please let me know down below in the comments whether or not that was helpful for you to kind of get your mind wrapped around what has done well and what you should play for your weekend and weekday tournaments. That's all for me today. Remember, guys, good luck and also have fun. Until next video, I'll see you soon.